Why should you care about business systems? It all sounds a bit nerdy and boring, right? Fair enough. Basically, systems are a way that you can take organized control of your inputs, which you should care about because those systems will dictate your outputs. So if your business is stealing time that is supposed to be dedicated to you and your family, if you want your business to double, triple, or 10x in size, if your business is currently producing obscene amounts of stress, then you should care about systems. Those outputs can only be reined in and intentionally developed or directed by managing the inputs. There's almost nothing else to care about in life, to be honest. Not just business systems, but life systems, societal systems, family systems. This is the nature of the game. Hey you, I'm Mark, husband of one, father of three, maker of puns, climber of trees, grower of businesses, pitcher of tents, occasional cutter of cheese, word nerd, and lover of families. Oh no. Oh no, not yet. No. Oh, here he comes. Where's my oar? Showed that Kraken who's boss. At least until like 2 p.m. this afternoon. I think I'll be due for another attack by then. Let's jump into it. Hey, welcome to all of you bandits and chilies. This episode is called The Business Systems System. You've heard about the need for business systems. How else are you going to automate, delegate, and scale? How else is your business going to reach the heights that it needs to in order to fulfill your vision? What heights does it need to reach in order to fulfill your business? That is a totally separate but very important topic. But look, maybe you have some systems, maybe you have none. They can feel like this elusive skeleton key that is ready to unlock everything for you in your business. Just sort of, sort out the systems and level up. Simple as that. But they can be deceptively simple or deceptively complex. So, what are systems? Why should you care? Why should you build them even if you're just starting out or you're just a one-man show? How can you build them? How can you tie your systems together and make them work? What kind of maintenance will your systems need? How much is too much or too little? What systems does your business need right now? Which systems should you focus on next? Strap yourself in because we're going to cover all of that and more. I wish I was much clearer on this much earlier in my business because for a long time, systems were this sort of nebulous concept for me, and that hindered our growth a lot and left me making things more complex than they needed to be. Let's start with some pre-framing on this. I believe I heard this from Brandon Vaughan. I'm not 100% sure if he was the first one to have said this or not, but basically, you already have 100% of the systems in your business. They already exist. It's just that some of your systems suck. Joshua Latimer explains this in the context of a bank account. Your bank balance right now is correct. You might wish that it was higher, but the figure of how many dollars and cents exist in your bank account is correct. It's not a mistake. Your systems, both in business and in life, have produced that result. That figure is the result of every contributing factor in your life. Your decisions around coffee and groceries, your systems for marketing and sales, your weird financial hang-ups loitering in the basement of your mind from what your dad modeled about money when you were 5. All of that and much more has ultimately led you to having the figure that is in your bank account today, right at this very moment. So with your business systems, it's not a case of creating systems. Your business is perfectly calibrated to give you exactly the result that you are currently getting. All of the inputs that lead to that output are already in place. Instead, it is a case of curating those systems. So let's answer our first question, and then I'll give you a little exercise that you can do to see the reality of this in your own business. That question was, what are systems? Essentially, a system is a process, a way of doing a thing. A system is what happens when. To give a really simple example, one of the systems in our business is for putting fuel in the vehicles. We have a little arrow sticker on the fuel gauge, and if the fuel level drops below that point during a shift, it is the responsibility of the driver of that vehicle to fill it up. If they cannot fill it up that day, perhaps because their day is running long, they're pushed for time, they might have a commitment straight after work, then they need to send a message to the group chat to let the team know that this particular vehicle is low. That way, whoever is using the vehicle next has a heads up that they might need to allow an extra 15 minutes at the start of their shift to go and get fuel. The instructions for this system are blue tacked to the dash of every vehicle, but you can see how if we didn't have that system written out, there would be a system. The vehicles would have fuel in them. They have to, but it would be a lesser system. Maybe without the arrow sticker, the onus for filling up would always fall to the same person, whoever was the most conscientious in regards to the fuel gauge. Also, without a specified measurable standard for notifying the team, some people would be more or less conscientious regarding communicating low fuel levels to the next person to use a particular vehicle. So whilst there would be more room for error, more mishaps, more friction, the system would still exist if we didn't document it. So as an exercise for your own business, take an area of friction that exists right now and write out what the system is. Not what you want it to be, but what actually happens right now. It will probably be a bit cringy to write it out because even as you're writing it, you'll be confronted by how ridiculous it is that your system for reordering supplies is to arrive to a random job on a Wednesday morning and realize that you don't have enough of something that you need for that specific job. So you step 2, let the customer know, oops, I forgot something, I'll be right back. And then step 3, head to the local hardware store and spend half an hour finding one bottle of exactly what you need and queuing up and purchasing it before returning to that morning's job. That's okay, we've all been there. You don't need to write out your current state for every system that you want to introduce or improve, but sometimes it is helpful to do that. Now hang on, did he just say a system that you might want to introduce or improve? I thought that he said that all of the systems in my business already exist. Well, I'm glad that you picked up on that. All of the systems in your business exist to give you the result that you are currently getting. But you and I don't just want the results that we are currently getting. We want to improve upon those results. So we can do that by improving the systems that are already in place, as well as by introducing entirely new ones. For example, if right now you do not have an incentivized referral program for your business, then you are leaving money on the table, and you should check out the free low-hanging fruit challenge inside of the free family-oriented business growers group on School, join via warplan.au. So that would be an example of a system that you could introduce. Okay, next question. Why should you care about business systems? It all sounds a bit nerdy and boring, right? Fair enough. Basically, systems are a way that you can take organized control of your inputs, which you should care about because those systems will dictate your outputs. So if your business is stealing time that is supposed to be dedicated to you and your family, if you want your business to double, triple, or 10x in size, if your business is currently producing obscene amounts of stress, then you should care about systems. Those outputs can only be reined in and intentionally developed or directed by managing the inputs. There's almost nothing else to care about in life, to be honest. Not just business systems, but life systems, societal systems, family systems. This is the nature of the game. But do you need to build out systems even if you're just starting out or just a one-man show? Like, should you actually spend the time to document your processes when you are the only one that is going to follow them? Surely that's a bit crazy, right? Like, if you know what needs to be done, just go and do it. Skip the middleman of writing it out. Well, not to be the bearer of bad news, but there's a bunch of reasons that you should begin building your systems at that level. Here's 6. Firstly, you will be intentional about what should be happening. When you write out your process, and from here on out, I'm going to call this creating standard operating procedures or SOPs. Once you write out an SOP for something in your business, you now have a clearly defined intention around that thing. Without that, you may oscillate between 7 different ways of completing a task and unconsciously never actually get consistent or decide which of those methods was most optimal. Following on from this, reason number 2 is that you actually have a measuring stick to know what correct looks like. This is even more critical when it comes to employees. But even for yourself in building out and optimizing your system for the future use of employees, if there is a correct way to set up the job site that is outlined in a step-by-step 1 through 11 process, that means that swapping steps 4 and 5 around is incorrect and that you must not skip step 7. That kind of thing is not obvious without a documented process. Let's say that it's just you. Following your own process in this way then allows you to, number 3, intentionally iterate on the system. Taking that example of setting up a job site, maybe you realize that your documented process is too rigid And under XYZ circumstances, it just causes a waste of time because you could have skipped step 7 or whatever. That's a massive win when you have it documented, because now you can iterate and version 1.0 becomes version 1.1. And maybe by the time you have employees, it's at a marvelous version 3.4. And then later, with more help from them, it reaches its ideal form at version 4.3. And by this point, the system will have taken so much into account, and it will just be a much better way of doing things. But you can't just get to version 4.3. You have to start with a version 1.0. You have to start by documenting something. The fact that it is documented means that it is a specific process. It's a documented standard operating procedure. It can't be standard if it's not documented. Reason number 4 is somewhat of a backtrack, but documenting SOPs, even when you have no employees, means that you can then have a clear and proven process to delegate to employees. This serves to manage expectations, have clear guidelines of what is and isn't acceptable, how long things should take. You already know at that point that the system works. So if an employee is not getting the desired results, you know that you can refer back to the working formula. Only with this kind of specificity of scope can you delegate to employees effectively. A lot of home service business owners actually never get past the off-sider stage with their employees, and this is one big reason why. They can have someone working along with them and tell them what to do, and it helps them out to some degree. But if they never actually train them and set them up for success to actually go and do the thing, if they never give them a system which empowers them to take ownership of a specific scope of work, then they can only be the off-sider. This isn't the only reason. Another big one would probably be a mindset of, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And also, many small business owners are unwilling to relinquish control and to send their off-sider to do a job on their own. But a simple job checklist is a great place to start in breaking down the larger scope of work into specific tasks that an employee can refer to. Okay, reason number 5 is that you can better link systems together for accountability, redundancy, and efficiency. When you document SOPs, you'll naturally start forming these intentional little clusters of systems together. The fact that this thing is scheduled to be cleaned means that that thing needs a service, and in the course of that, you do an inventory check and you reorder stuff for the next time. Now, maybe that's not the most elegant example, but you get the idea. You start to see the gaps more clearly, and you can be really intentional about solving broader problems. For example, in building out any system, there is always the issue of what happens if it's not followed. One way to combat that is to link systems together. For example, a critical part of our daily processes are the completion of job reports and end-of-day reports. Now, what happened when I put those things in place was that I would get a little notification on my phone when one was submitted, I would review it, and then I would know what's up. Great. Except, what happens when one is missed? Nothing. That's what. Nothing would happen because I barely had the bandwidth to keep up with the reports, let alone to make sure that they were happening. So now our VA has an end-of-day task, which is to review all of the reports from that day, to check if any of them are missing, and to notify the respective people to submit that relevant report. Then she collates any relevant information from all of that and passes it on to me. So now I ignore all of the reports in our business except her end-of-day report. This topic of linking systems for improving accountability, redundancy, and efficiency could be its own episode. But suffice to say for now that this is a massive reason to start making your SOPs straight away, even if it's just a one-man band. Now, the last reason on this little list, number 6, is you're building the habit. This is the way to build your business. So don't start not building it until it gets big enough to start building it. Just follow the process from the beginning. The quicker you get used to working on the business, meaning creating SOPs so that you can properly delegate and iterate, the faster you can move towards your goals for the business, whatever those may be. Okay, so now how can you build systems? Is it as simple as writing step 1, put on shoes, step 2, tie laces? Yes, and at the same time, no. That is the essence of what you need to do for each process in your business. But Of equal importance is that these processes are accessible and living parts of the business. Taking the end of day report, for example, that system within our business resides in jot form, and the form itself maintains the written consistency of the system. The same questions and fields are there to be filled out each time. Great. But that only works if the team has access to that form and then remembers to fill it in. So how does that happen? Well, we send them a form link. We tell them to save it as a shortcut in the work folder on their phone that has other apps or forms that they may need for their job. And then we have reminders up where they will see them at the end of the day. There's a reminder near the washing machines that they need to empty and fill at the end of the day, as well as on the inside of the door as they exit through the office. Then, if they forget to fill it out, our VA will cross-check it and send them a reminder. So on the one hand, that specific system is written out, and on the other hand, it is embedded into what they will be doing at the time so as to make it harder to miss. Another example would be having an intuitive placement of equipment such that one thing leads to the next. When deploying systems, it is crucial to explain to the team how they benefit from the system, not why they have to do that. They get it. They understand that they're paid to do stuff. But how does this thing benefit the business, benefit the team, and benefit them? No one, you and me included, likes to do pointless busy work. So dignify your team by explaining the bigger picture. Better yet, much better yet, is involving your team in the creation or enhancement of systems, especially the people who will be directly impacted by that specific thing. This might sound painfully obvious, but it is a lesson that took me a really long time to learn. I think I was told, but still, somehow I insisted on learning this one the hard way myself. Anyway, when you involve your team, you get better buy-in from them. You get better ideas. Things can move quicker. You can delegate parts of the process of creating the systems. There is so much in that. That too may be its own episode. But I've got more for you on the how of building systems in a moment, along with tying them together, what systems you need right now, which ones to focus on next. But first, what kind of maintenance will your systems need? This is an interesting topic because systems can feel like they are never done, and in a lot of ways, they aren't. They are a living part of your business. But in terms of reviewing them after they're going, it is good to set a date to review. That's fantastic, that's ideal, and I think that they should all be reviewed annually. But realistically, that's not always going to happen, and the ones that really need review will let you know because they will be causing systemic problems. So, look, this is just my opinion. There would be a lot of people who are smarter than me that would disagree, but I think that reviewing systems is a great goal to set, but it's not totally necessary to achieve. Instead, I think that your focus should be on enhancing or introducing the systems which will give you what you need to reduce today's stress and increase tomorrow's profits. If you'd like a lot more clarity on this, I'd like to introduce to you the Business Systems System. It is a complete systems template which is available within the Family Oriented Business Growers group. Join via warplan.au. The Business Systems System includes everything that you need to build simple and effective systems, track those systems and the order in which you need to build them inside of a centralized hub, a quick guide on how to use the Business Systems System, a pre-filled list of over 120 systems that you will need in your business divided into different areas of your business, such as admin or production, as well as into what Joshua Latimer calls the 5 stages of business. Essentially, what level your business is at and what you need at that level in order to get to the following level. So jump into the group and check it out. As James Clear said, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Lame dad joke alert, what do you call the person who ruins things by not following your systems? A lousy, good-for-nothing SOP. All right, well, the sad reality of that one is that if you're anything like me, the most likely offender for not following your systems is probably you. I always think that I'm special and I can just skip past step 4. Anyway, if you're feeling like a nerdy conversation about the next moves for your business, book a free clarity call with me, link in the description. That's it. Have an awesome day. Make someone else's day awesome. I love you just the appropriate amount, like take whatever is weird and then take a healthy step backwards from that line. That is exactly how much. If it's weird, you're the weirdo. Catch ya. Bye. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Are you sniffing what I'm stepping in? If you're looking for a really valuable community centered around building your business, being really intentional with your spouse and kids, and if you think you can tolerate my terrible dad jokes, then join Family-Oriented Business Growers. It's awesome. There's self-paced challenges designed to help you solve key pain points within your business in short, intentional sprints. There's awesome people in there doing awesome things who have experience with stuff that can help you, having stood where you stand. You'll benefit from what's in there, we'll benefit from having you in there, you legend you, and best of all, it's totally free and also free of toxic shenanigans because we don't tolerate none of that. The mission of the group is to help 250 family-oriented home service business owners reclaim 5 hours per week for what matters most whilst growing their business this year. So jump in there and get amongst it. Join via warplan.au, that's warplan.au. Oh no. He's early. Warplan.au. Catch you in there. Ah!